flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Katie, will you please do a roll call?
Councilwoman Gotchall?
Here.
Councilman Duran?
Here.
Councilman Jackson?
Here.
Councilman Looper?
Here.
Councilwoman Camp?
Here.
Councilman Tucker?
Here.
Mayor Nichols?
Here. Okay, I'd like to call the Craig City Council meeting to order for January 28th, 2025. First item on is the agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from January 14th, 2025 regular meeting. Approval of the bills through January 23rd, 2025 in the amount of $615,694.47. Appointment of Justin Jennison to another 4-year term on the City of Craig Board of Appeals. Term will end in August 12th, 2028. And approval of the, well, that's the next item. So with that being said, item A through C are ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Councilman Duran made a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Item 2 is the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Councilman Jackson made a motion to approve the agenda for January 28th, 2025, as presented, seconded by Councilwoman Camp. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Item number 3, Chief of Police Mike Cochran to do a promotional swearing-in and support services Lieutenant A. Fandel. Anthony. Chief, floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. So I'll say something very brief. As you know, Sergeant Fandale's been with the department for a while. He's served as a sergeant and well-deserved on the promotion. So if you would, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Anthony Fandel,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Craig City Charter
and the Craig City Charter
and municipal ordinances,
and municipal ordinances,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform my duties
perform my duties
as a lieutenant
as a lieutenant
for the City of Craig Police Department.
for the City of Craig Police Department.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
That meeting we had today, right? Is that covered under your
A little bit slower, that's
If she does, it's okay. There you go. Thank you. Are you gonna do this? Okay. Thank you.
excellent.
Congratulations, Lieutenant Fandel. Okay, item 4. Mr. Brixis, item 4, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. A few things, you have my report from yesterday, but a couple of things I just wanted to enunciate here is the first off, I want to thank Katie Carmody for the work that she's done on the compensation and classification study. She walked into the center of that, and it's a pretty daunting task to complete, and with everything else she said going on, we've made some great progress on it. We're looking at finishing up on the study end of February, you think, is probably likely, and then we'll have a report to the city council talking about some of the things that has been uncovered. And of course, from some of the information I put in my report, we weren't that far off, really, when you look at our comparison to average salaries and compensation. And so most of those adjustments, a good part of them were made up in our 2025 compensation changes with the COLA that we provided this year. And so we have a few things that'll probably have to be considered in the 2026 budget as we get closer to that planning process. And so anyway, overall, it's we're at this point, I think we're waiting for the job description classification revisions for most all the employees, different positions to be completed. And I think the study's generally pretty much complete. So Katie and Austin Peters, Beth Tatarko will be presenting probably end of February, first part of March sometime. We also, Heather's been working on the IGA for the airport agreement between Moffat County and the city of Craig, and that's been kind of a back and forth trying to get all the detail put in that. And in our discussion that the mayor and I had with Candace Miller, the person that has responsibility for that now, it looks like we were possibly going to have an IGA to present by the 11th of February. Not sure. There still seems to be a number of open items that have to be discussed, and I think the county's looking into some of the research on some of the budget items that we've been sharing with them, and wanting to make some recommendations. So I think it's going to be close in terms of being able to make that date, but that's the plan at this point, is to have that IGA prepared by the 11th of February for the council's approval at this point. I think, Marlon, are you ready to talk about the Meadowwood apartment zoning and physical environmental impact assessment? Sure. We've been working on this for some time, and Marlon's put in a good deal of effort. We've had some private contractors, a contractor supporting some of the work that was completed on the traffic study, and of course other department heads that supported some of the flow studies for the collection system and the distribution. And anyway, I'll let Marlon go through what he's put together. He's put a nice piece together here in support of the Meadowwood project.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So you have my assessment there. We can kind of hit the highlights of it for the most part. We can start off with the zoning because this was somewhat of a question. The existing 5 acres there is zoned light industrial. And light industrial does allow for multifamily dwellings up to 24 units per building, as long as they're not over 50 foot tall. And in order to confirm that, I attached an email string that I had talked to with Alex Gano, our kind of land attorney, just to confirm, because the language is kind of, you have to string it together in our land use code to make sure that that was the case, and he interpreted the same way. So it's a permitted use in our land use code. And for the light industrial district, I put a map there together for you, kind of showing what the surrounding zones are. They're pretty much light industrial, residential mobile home, and residential high density are kind of the surrounding zones there. Then I gave you that map kind of so you could see what the surrounding uses are as well, because some of those are single family homes outside of the park there. And so from a zoning standpoint, it meets all the criteria there without needing to be rezoned. Storm drainage, not a whole lot to talk about there. We actually had a meeting this morning, and everything's pretty much staying on site and going to a large detention area to where then it can be basically kept at our historic levels as far as going into the storm sewer. So once we had everything mapped out there, SGM didn't really have a concern there, as long as they designed that detention enough to take up for that, make up for that, to where we're not overloading the storm sewer there in Mac Lane. Now that will also help compared to our original site. That'll help some with debris and that sort of thing. There'll be more of it will be able to most likely be able to stay on site, depending on how they screen stuff and everything, versus going down onto the Billy Mac's property and that sort of thing, because that's eventually where it does end up as well, that same storm drain. So but otherwise didn't appear to be any issues there. Water and sewer, Carl had worked with SGM there quite a bit previously, and SGM has most of that area modeled to where they assured us that they saw no issues with capacity or tie-in there necessarily, other than some logistics of getting it tied in with bypass pumping and that sort of thing. But as far as capacity to be able to supply water and have plenty of sewer capacity, they didn't see a need for a flow study or anything there. Carl had supplied, which I supplied in your assessment there. He'd already supplied a will serve letter for that they needed up front there to make sure that water and sewer was available. Other public utilities, we got will serve letters from Yampa Valley Electric and Atmos Energy. Only one we haven't gotten so far was from a fiber optic for like Luminate, but that gentleman doesn't work there anymore, so I need to reach out on that. But that's a pretty minor one there. So they had will serve letters as well. So shouldn't be any utility issues there that we can see anyhow. Now the big one was obviously traffic. And so I included Skip Hudson's second report there. His first report was done off some traffic numbers in June, and then he did some off some traffic numbers in October. October, some of the traffic numbers were, some of it didn't register as well. So when he put together his report, he wanted to make sure of kind of what the buffer zone, you know what I mean, how much capacity, additional capacity we had there, regardless if the numbers went up or down slightly or even a large amount. It based on his modeling there, it has plenty of capacity in Mac Lane, even if those numbers were to double or triple right now. That's what kind of mostly what he had in his conclusion. He gave some recommendations for the south exit entrance, that sort of thing, to where we still need to, we talked this morning on our meeting a little bit about making sure how we'd want to do a crosswalk and that sort of thing to keep pedestrians safe. So we haven't gotten details on that, yes, necessarily, but that's one of the things we're kind of working on. So talked to the fire chief. He had no issues. They're including fire hydrants where need to be per him, and we got turning radiuses and that sort of thing. So we're he had no issues, and wrote a letter saying that didn't have an issue with the way the layout is now as far as firefighting, supporting that as far as firefighting goes. So that's This is just physical, like I said, physical and, environmental impacts. Not other impacts in the community, but overall, from the physical impacts and everything, there hasn't been any huge red flags there, so.
Question to Marlon on that? So on-site retention, Marlon, does that have to be fenced, or is that something that's an attractive nuisance, or?
So in the past, it hasn't. You look at Walmart and a lot of the others, you know what I mean? Most of the time, they're not. They're going to have some landscaping in and around that area and that sort of thing.
It'll be quite a bit shallower than what we have at Walmart. Correct? Yeah.
And it should be. They've got a pretty large area designated for it, so I would imagine it's probably going to be a fairly shallow. Obviously, if it got full for some reason, and it could be an issue, but it's something that we don't designate in our code, but we would have to take a look at that depending on kind of what features they have and stuff out there.
Sure.
Yeah, so they're still in the site, still pretty, at the initial phases of the site plan as far as, does appear they're working with SGM, which is, be good since they kind of know our system and, you know what I mean, especially when it comes to utilities and that sort of thing. So, because we have to have SGM review all of these as well. So, if they're having them work on them, that should hopefully cut out any potential issues there with back and forth as far as civil review and that sort of thing, I would imagine.
Question to Marlon? Okay. Thank you. And Peter, that was distributed or made available, the report, or?
Yes, I think, Joanne, you got a copy of the report? Okay.
We had notified her and she came by and picked one up, so,
Okay.
yeah, ahead of time, so, thank you.
Mayor, I was going to talk a little bit about the kickoff meeting, and do I have any concerns about NDA from today?
No,
Okay.
I think we tried to clarify that, just the number of bids, I think, and that was the only,
Not to mention that?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to mention that Tri-State put out RFPs for their entire service area for renewables and as well as dispatchable power sources, and they got a great response. And of course,
I
when
think
they're
you can say they like the
Huh?
big number and what they're doing to modeling, but just the localized, you can.
from the
152 total bids were submitted, and
from the total dispatchable power source bids, which are things like natural gas, which is part of the settlement agreement that which is made public, so I can talk about this, but natural gas power plant is to be established, if it happens, here at Moffett County, and so there looks like there's, I don't want to say the exact number, but a number of credible RFPs for that particular facility, which would be great, great addition to the community. And I think as they go through their preferred plan and preparation for that part, they're looking to determine where these various power generation facilities will exist in their 4 or 5 state area, including Moffett County. And we should have some pretty interesting discussions coming up here before April-May timeframe with Tri-State, and as far as that
I think the date,
that process goes. What's that?
the dates, I think we can say, because they're public, comment, and so.
Okay. You wanna insert that? I've got May 26th and
April 11th, 2025, so
Yeah.
not that far away. Tri-State will release their preferred portfolio selection of, of all the proposals. So after that is released, then The PUC has until July 10th to approve their portfolio, their selection. In the meantime, they're going to be looking for community letters of support for the assets, and because some of them may meet a little resistance, hard to tell. So I'm sure council and community members, the chamber, and everybody will be asked to show some support. So, but those are a couple. It's coming quicker than I thought it would. So so that was exciting on the meeting today. So.
I had asked about the Colorado mine closing to see if that's still on schedule. That looks to be on schedule for the end of this year. And then after that, remediation and reclamation activities begin. Of course, we asked about the employees, and I think they feel pretty good about the employee base, that there likely won't be a reduction in force as a result of their activities there. It'll a lot of retirements happening and that sort of thing. Tri-State also offered to support. We're developing that community trust fund with the first payment happening in 2026. That's $5.5 million. So there's 4 years totaling $22 million. And Tri-State had made an offer in addition to some of the other services that they are trying to provide to us to help with some of the legal aspects and organization of that fund to support, just the overall organization. I think that's going to be under consideration, because I think we had anticipated going out with our own RFP on that to locate a legal firm and an investment firm that would handle those funds for us. So that's there's a lot of things in the works with regard to the community trust fund and the committee organization and that sort of thing, and of course community members that are or different entities and special districts that are certainly looking to want to participate in that activity. So that's part of the discussion that'll be happening here pretty soon. Of course, they have made available to us the Ferguson Group to support grant activities, and that'll still be ongoing. They'll continue to pay a service fee to support that effort, and we can take advantage of that for projects, especially that meet our economic development investment goals of property tax and job creation. So, anyway, overall, great meeting. Good recommendations that came out of the meeting with Tri-State and some of their members, as well as our group. So I think things are, like Chris said, things are developing pretty rapidly. I think that's all I have, Chris, on that.
Peter?
Yeah.
Peter, circling back to the airport IGA, would it be beneficial, because we kind of talked to Commissioner Boozer about it, to have a joint service workshop with that prior to it coming back to council?
Well, it certainly could be, and if we, as we talked about, I guess before the meeting, the February 11th we'd have to push that back, of course. If
I don't see an issue pushing it back. Do you guys?
Well, the airport or the county really would like to have it finished. My understanding today is that a lot of the modifications that were requested, we don't seem to be that far apart. So depending on how the revised version comes back, it may or may not be necessary. Yeah. I think that was just a real history piece for me, going back to the land transfers and airport ownership, et cetera. So If there aren't many revisions, then we may not need that type of meeting.
I think you worked all that out pretty much, and this is, the other big issue was approval of expenses, you know, which.
Yeah, and I agree with, I just think they
Yeah.
were misunderstanding maybe why we were looking into it as much as we were and thought maybe a workshop would be beneficial.
I can only tell you the conversations I had with Mr. Roden. I don't know what conversations they had internally.
Exactly. And that's how we are with the conversations that we've had, and
Right.
so.
Anything else? Peter, Marlon?
I did just have one other
Oh,
question,
sorry.
Peter. As far as staff for Katie's department, have we filled staff there, or what's the status on that? I know we love to keep Bruce Nelson in the loop, but just kind of curious as to where we're at.
Well, we haven't had to use Bruce much. Katie stepped in and seems to be quite competent, but I'll let Katie answer that question.
So we currently have the HR coordinator position posted. That is scheduled to close, I believe, on the 7th of February. So we will be looking to fill that position, and then we'll make a decision as to if additional positions need to be filled.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no other comments. Thank you, Peter. Council, Luke, will you start us off?
I didn't have any meetings this week, so
Okay. Andrew?
I also did not have any other meetings.
Well, I know Randy's got enough for us, so. Mr. Looper?
Yeah, I do. Attended the DBA meeting. They just wanted us to get it out there. The Taste of Chocolate is February 8th from 4 to 7, and they're looking for chocolatiers. They really would like, they're at 6, I think, right now, and they really would like to have more, up to 12 possible. They're looking for 170 pieces per chocolatier. So if you know anybody, or if anyone hears about it, they are looking for people. Had a meeting with Peter and Shannon and myself with Bill Ray of the RTA. He's the consultant we hired to push forward where we're going with the RTA. There's a lot of discussion about costs, what the actual cost will be for a circulator route or for other the more routes to Steamboat or to the airport or the other things involved. Basically, they're going to have two committees, a technical committee, which will be finalizing those costs and giving us an idea of what that would mean as far as to taxpayers and how we want to pay for it. And then we'll have a formation committee, which is working on the IGA. All those are going to be done by end of February. Because starting in March, we need to start having public comment periods. And then from April through June will be the push to sell it in the various communities. So we'll be having lots of meetings, lots of other things going on in that 3-month period. Attended the county workshop about the tri-state settlement. The only thing that came out of that is I've had various people from MRH approach me that they would like a seat at that table. So that's just something I wanted to mention, and I'll put that into our, as a possibility. I'm not sure if we change the workshop or how you do that, but they just wanted us to know.
I'll cover that in a little bit.
Okay. I had a CML meeting. We went over 16 different bills that were going over in the legislature. 3 of them really affect us. SB 25-037 is a bill we're pushing forward that allows us, as the city of Craig, to invest the tri-state money without the normal legal restrictions. There's another part of that, part 2, which is what they were asking for, revising the allocation of the severance funds to favor coal-affected communities. Basically, CML came back and wants to amend that second part is changed so that the funds, the severance taxes are put in the restricted so that the state can't steal them, instead of trying to adjust them so that, right now it's equal with all communities. The bill wants to change it so that it's unequal with all communities, but the coal communities get more of the money. Basically, the feeling among the cities involved with CML was that what really needs to happen is that it needs to be pulled out of the severance being able to be taken. And if it's a restricted fund, it can't be. So that's a change that they're pushing forward to make in that bill. Another bill, House Bill 25-1051, repeals recycled bag 10-cent fee. Most of CML is fighting against that. I really didn't know if we collected that 10-cent fee or not. But there's a big push that a lot of communities make a lot of money off of that. And so I didn't know if we did or not, but
You charge it, we don't make a.
we don't make, yeah. So either way, there's a push to have that not restricted. And then there's a House Bill 25-1077 on backflow prevention devices requirement. What that means is that right now, anyone dealing with backflow has to be licensed by the Department of Revenue. They want to exempt people who inspect, test, or repair it. So it makes, because there's a lot of problems with getting people to be able to do it because the licensing and everything involved evidently is very involved. So they want to, if you're installing them, that's fine, you still need to be licensed, but if you're inspecting them, testing them, or repairing them, you don't have to be licensed anymore. So that's a big push with that bill. Had a meeting on the Innovation Center with the First Southwestern Community Fund. They do classes and loans to small businesses of various types. They average about 30 to 35 loans with a less than 1% default rate. Because it's one-to-one meetings, we're talking in negotiations with them to be the fiscal agent for our revolving loan fund we want to set up with the Innovation Center. So those talks are continuing. Had a senior center meeting. They were just doing a workshop over their goals and basically at the end of the year, they made money again and they're growing. So that's a great thing. MRH meeting, they had a report on the surgical post-op survey that they have been sending out this whole past year. They've met all their goals. Their goals are 85 to 95%, which is really high. And as far as issues with post-operative surgery, it's been incredible that they have it. Everything's positive. I mean, most of the goals, the responses back were 100%. This is great. So that, I thought that was really good. They also ended December with a $1.7 million positive, and they ended the year with a 5.5 to the positive $1 million positive, compared with 2024 of 1.7 million. So they're doing well and having a big increase. MRH is just a great asset to this community and just needs to be supported. Had an EDAC meeting. I'll let Derek talked about most of that. And then I had a Balloon Fest meeting. We've booked most of our entertainment, and whether Whittle the Wood lets you know, we are going to have a Bob Seger tribute band. I've heard them twice now, and they're really good. We're looking at booking various entertainment for kids, plus the 4 other bands and the negotiations with most of them. So that's it.
That's it. I guess I should have said this at the start of council reports, but something we've never done. If you want clarification at the end of Randy's report, or whoever's, feel free. You know, I'll open up if anybody wants more clarification, so feel free to chime in there. So some of this can kind of rapid fire. Jesse, you're up.
I was out of town last week, so I don't have anything.
Derek?
Yeah, the only meeting I had was the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting. There was one member-at-large vacancy that has been posted. Deadline for that is February 20th, so if anybody knows of any interest, send them our way. That board, we're pretty well covered throughout the industries. One industry that we're kind of looking for is maybe agricultural or healthcare. Maybe get some representation on that board from those industries. EDAC has been working on this IRS letter, potentially to submit to the IRS in regards to some of the coal miners or workers that are being affected from the Colorado shutdown or the early closures, potentially having access to their retirement funds, and maybe hopefully withholding that 10% early withdrawal tax and stuff like that. There is an advisory member that kind of gave a testimonial yesterday that, hey, you know, his wife's potentially out of a job in a few months, and if they were able to access their 401k or their retirement and not be penalized, that may help them, invest in the community and start a small business. So I do believe that IRS letter has been drafted. It's being checked over by the attorneys. And if everything comes back good, hopefully not to jeopardize anything with the tri-state settlement, then we can submit that and kind of start grassroots efforts with hopefully Senator Dylan Roberts and Megan Lukens and kind of start introducing that and just see. So it might be a long stretch, but the committee thought, hey, it never hurts to ask. So that would really help out some potential people that might be losing some good paying jobs here in the near future. Have an update on the Moffett County Courthouse. I talked with Commissioner Booyer yesterday. Sounds like, we'll run this by everybody, but tentative agreement would be for the county to keep ownership of the property, maintain the property, spray the weeds, maintenance, all that, but kind of hand the reins over to the city in regards to promoting it, having the economic development in Shannon start promoting that and working that route. So us not take ownership of it, but us take the reins of promoting it. So I think that would be a pretty good deal. I want to say next steps would be hopefully to get maybe joint services involved with Peter and Shannon and maybe the commissioners and kind of see exactly what the parameters are, who's responsible for what. But they were open to maintaining ownership with us starting to promote it and take that project on. So I think that's a pretty good deal for everyone. What's that?
That's a good solution.
Yeah, I think they realize that, Shannon and the advisory committee have the tools and we have the marketing website to start pursuing. And so hopefully we'll get that moving in the next few weeks. Shannon gave an update on the industrial park workshop that we had. A lot of the same questions and concerns were brought up by this advisory committee. Obviously, they believe that the rail is a pivotal point for this property. They think, in their opinion, without the rail, that it may not be as attractive. So, obviously, that mountain rail and all that aspect in Union Pacific, maintaining that and keep operating that rail would be huge for that. So, we just mentioned, we submitted a list of questions. So, anything that we get back as council, I'd like to share with them because they had a lot of similar questions. Shannon's working on the 2024 annual report that we should see within the next month. And then the Moffett County Vision 2025 transition plan that has been out for quite some time. Obviously, it's 2025, so this advisory council kind of took it and starting to work with it, focus areas and updates. They want to update that plan. And we thought, last meeting we talked about council having a strategic plan and moving forward on the comprehensive plan. If we get feedback from this group, then we can incorporate that into our future plans. So that's kind of the main topic of discussion with that group that they're working on. So hopefully by February, they should be Shannon should hopefully have some documentation on what their 2025 transition plan updates would look like that we can include in our strategic plan moving forward. And that's all I have from that meeting. Do you have
Thank
anything
you.
to add?
Question? Derek, any questions, Derek? Michelle?
I had a few meetings. I attended the Communities That Care annual meeting / celebration. I attended the District Accountability Committee meeting on January 20th, where they provided a financial update to the committee. I attended the high school basketball game where my son performed at halftime. I attended the STR workshop today. The Suicide Prevention Coalition that kind of circulated late 2024 has their first meeting this Thursday that I will be attending. I've also got a facilities tour scheduled on Monday with Peter. And then tonight, in between the workshop and this meeting, I ran up to the high school. It's senior night for the wrestling team, so I caught the first couple matches of the wrestling duel tonight.
Okay.
That's it.
Questions? Well, I wasn't too busy as Randy, but Randy brought up a little bit about the city-county community economic development fund. Purpose of that meeting was to come up with some parameters that match the city and the county's priority for the development of that fund. with the end result is having a document that we can go out to a law firm and create the legal structure and operating guidelines for this fund. That was the subject of Tri-State wanted to know today. In the meeting, Peter talked about what the status and where we were with that fund. So we are making progress. I did send out to council an email. The county took notes on that, Jeff Comstock. He compiled all our notes. It's in the document I emailed out to you. Randy, if you have comments like that, we'll put them in the document. See who else, or, I think we realize we need a little bit more representation from the taxing. We originally left that meeting, said just the school board, but I think some of the other taxing authorities need to either be able to select who represents that or some other means. So that'll be a subject of discussion. So I need that back Friday, please, by 10 a.m. Jeff wants to compile all those and make a final document. So I would appreciate your attention as well. NWCDC Zoom, I was on that. I think there were some issues throughout county, going over grants available again. There was nothing of our local area that was on the actual business meeting. Shannon was the voting member. I just kind of watched that. Attended the fire district annual or monthly board meeting. January meeting's always exciting because we put on our new probationary firefighters in January. And it's quite a commitment, even though it's a part-time organization, quite a commitment. They'll spend this entire year completing all their training, all their certifications, and, passing state mandated testing. So, our local fire department has a lot of the same certifications that larger full-time departments have to go through. So it's quite a commitment, but that's always exciting to see our class. Not as big as we want. We only have 3, but they're few and mighty. The Mayor's Summit, I talked a little bit about the Mayor's Summit. Quite interesting, honestly. CML puts this on. Mayors from across the state were there, 36 different mayors, big cities, small cities. Some cities I never even heard of. But, the best part of this was they actually had mayors do the presentations. Obviously, we had legal advice and attorneys had to be in there, but the mayors did presentations with some good input. Shaping the conversation was one of the subjects, and basically what's my leadership role? Trying to help bring council together and bringing the community together. Big thing is the community just wants to be heard, and making sure that happens. So that was quite the common theme. The mayor's role in strategic planning. We've had some discussion on this lately. It is highly, highly recommended that we do have a strategic plan and a valid comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan should drive our annual budget workshops, our sessions we do. And that plan should drive our agenda, not staff driving our agenda. So sticking with that plan and our strategic plan, comprehensive plans 10 to 15 years, and down the road looking. Strategic plans 3 years, 5 years maximum. Navigating the mayor and the manager dynamic. I don't think Peter and I have too big an issue here, but I think we did this in our PRs we did last month with Peter. And one of the things, and it was brought up in this, what's your city manager's expectation of council as well? We set expectations for him, but what did he say? One of the things he said, he would like more council to meet with them and discuss it with them. And that was actually a recommendation that they had weekly meetings. I don't know if Peter has time for that. That's something he could discuss with you, but with each council member, so I think he opened the door and feel free to come in and talk to him, and that's just one of the expectations. Running open meetings, I learned a few things. One of the big things that we do not do well, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else, is when we have a item, we make a motion, a second, and then we open up discussion. Before we make our first, that's when you ask questions only related to information you need to make a decision. No discussion on your opinion. Okay, at that point, once we have a motion and a second, then we open up the discussion. That way, we're not changing people up front that, that may not be quite. You have an opportunity as discussion starts, feel free to talk, about it. I talk too much, I learned that. So hopefully I let all of you talk first, and I will do my best to do that and voice your opinions before I voice mine. Building political savvy for mayors from local alliances to state level advocacy. Biggest thing they just do there, talk about regional alliances. We stand better working, with NWCDC, with AGNC as a larger voice, and then just, our own private voice trying to make changes. So it's important that we participate in all the groups that we do and have that, say. One of the biggest things I talked about, and it goes back to economic development, we toured the stock show complex. If you remember a few years back, they were going to leave Denver. It came up. They wanted more modern, more space, better facilities. Well, what came from that, their board started working with the city of Denver. They built alliances with the local community around there. They have an a disadvantaged community across the Platte River. I think it's, the Platte River. And they worked in building access. They're building a bridge across the Platte River to that community to add access to that side of Denver. They worked alliances with the community. They worked well with the city. CSU built a campus there, a building on the stock show complex. And all this sparked investors for revitalization of most of the facilities. Interesting thing for Carl, they use the wastewater. They have 2 6-foot mains that run right down by the stock show. They use that to heat over 1 million square feet, square foot of the stock show buildings. So they spent $38 million to build this facility, which obviously we can't do, but it was just interesting, to see how this alliances and how, they work together to make this happen. So they built new arenas, new facilities, CSU, part of their campus. So all of that was interesting. So no, that's enough of that. So Peter talked a little bit about the today meeting with Tri-State. Of course, Peter, myself, Shannon was there, and 2 from the county and the county attorney. Tri-State shows up with 12 people, so, but that was part of their commitment. So the kickoff meeting was about concerning Section 5 of their settlement agreement. In that section, they pledged to do certain things. Number 1 was meeting with us twice a year, giving us updates on their progress. And that's pretty much what the meeting was today, is where they are in their ERP process. And that's what Peter was talking about. And then how we can work together and, to achieve this. Backstop payments, that was, we were potentially could receive, in addition to the 22 million, 48 million in backstop payments. What affects those backstop payments is other assets that are either built in Moffett County, that contribute to the tax base, or if Tri-State helps us through some of these initiatives, like if they help us secure a grant for $5 million, that would come off the backstop payment amount. So, they offered a lot of support. but I think we got to be careful and use that judiciously because that'll affect our backstop payments. So, like Peter said, great meeting, and I think we have a great working relationship with Tri-State, so at least to this point. I did not attend the commissioners' meeting today. They had one agenda item, and that was their consent agenda, so I didn't think that was worth to do that. Peter talked about the IGA with the airport, where Peter and I met with Candace for a while today. And I still have to do one more plug, Chamber State of the Community on February 26th. Why this is important, by the city charter, we have to give State of the Community annually. So we serve, I will give a speech on the state of the city, and we will have that presentation on our website for people that cannot attend that event, so that we meet that requirement. With all that said, any questions or? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to item 6, public comment. I always read this, so public comment time is set aside for citizens to address city council on matters within jurisdiction of the city. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. Speakers cannot cede their time to another speaker. The city council can only act on matters that are on the agenda, but may place matters brought to their attention at this meeting on a future agenda for consideration. If you have documents to present to city council, please provide 8 copies to our city clerk before the meeting, like, Monday, the week of the meeting. So, with that said, I would like to open public comment. Hi, Janie. I haven't seen you for a while, so welcome.
I've kind of behaved. Janie Morley, Taylor Street. I'm going to start by telling you a little story. I came here when I was 20 years old. Obviously, I'm not 20 anymore. We came for work. My husband built Unit 3. When it was done, we had a choice. We could leave, but we had already fallen in love with the Yampa Valley and Craig. What did we love? It was a safe place to raise our children. We saw that children were well cared for. We saw that senior citizens were well cared for. We knew our neighbors. We still do. We've been in the only house we've ever owned for over 40 years. I was 20 when we bought that house on Taylor Street. I am the face of the complaining person about short-term rentals. Our houses are very close together in the old part of Craig. I don't think it's fair to start putting businesses next to our homes. And a short-term rental is a business, just like a hotel. I did listen in on your workshop. There was a lot of talk on how much you could charge for fees to apply and how many taxes could be collected. But I felt there wasn't enough importance put on what do the residents think. You guys talked about having a public forum that quickly went to a focus group. I'd like to go on record as I want to be part of that focus group because it does impact me. I was scared to death the house next to me was going to become a short-term rental. I took a deep breath when it actually sold to someone who's living there. But all it takes is the next sale for someone to decide they're going to make a buck off of it, and it will ruin the integrity of my neighborhood. I can look around and tell you who belongs there and who doesn't belong there. That's the safety. That's why you move to Craig. You want to know your neighbors. You want to help your neighbors. Someone staying a couple days, they don't have any investment in our community. I think their vacation needs to be at a hotel, not in my neighborhood. Going from that, I'm also honestly confused. I know you can't answer me today. The townhomes, I understand 2 of the 20 units have sold. So I question when the citizens of Craig are going to get a return on their investment, because those tax dollars that went towards that is an investment of our taxes. When I look at that, I also feel that this Meadowwood is being pushed prematurely. And I know at least 2 members of this council that felt it was premature and not needed, because we don't know what Craig's going to look like when the mines close, when the plant closes or changes. You don't know, you don't have a crystal ball. But I can walk around, I still see for rent signs. I still see for sale signs. Yet you guys say you have a housing assessment that we're short on housing. Help me understand at some point in the future, how do we have a shortage when I see all the for rent signs and I see the for sale signs? Something's not adding up here.
Okay.
I would ask that you slow down on this Meadowwood. I don't think it's needed. And I realize you may have information I don't have, but I think it's premature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, please feel free. Dress, come up. Joanna, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, I guess. Let me get my glasses out. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the city impact study available to me. I looked it over. I didn't agree with everything, and that's the way it goes. But at the last meeting, I want to bring this one point up. At the last meeting, Councilwoman Camp's vote was nullified concerning the housing project. Since that vote was nullified, all her prior voting on that project should also be nullified, because she has a vested interest as a realtor in securing that property with Howard Perea. I've talked to him, and he said he had talked to her, so that's what I'm thinking. It's also known as Carpenter Leasing. I think that's a conflict of interest, and I'm pretty concerned about that. And I just wonder what's going to be done about that, because we're back to square one then. Because the voting, I looked at how everybody voted and everything, it's 3-3 still, with her votes being nullified, because that's a conflict of interest. I just wish the community come down there and check out the project for themselves, where it's going to go, how it's going to be jammed into a 5-acre parcel. I looked at the schematics on that. I just can't believe that, guys. It's going to be a cluster. In my opinion, I think that maybe the people of Craig should have a vote on this. I know that, it would take a lot of doing and money-wise or whatever, but I think it needs to be brought to the citizens of Craig. You don't know how many people have come to me and my husband and have said, what are they thinking? It's going to be a cluster down there. I said, we need to come to the meetings. You need to voice your opinion. They said, well, we'd like to. Do you think it's going to make a difference? I said, well, I don't know, but I go to every meeting and I voice my opinion because I think it's worth it for you guys to hear what the community thinks. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon or Heather, one of you give that clarification later on what that vote was?
I think it's a deeper conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Later? Yeah.
we'll sort that out, correct.
Yeah. Okay. Public comment. Anybody else up? Justin, you had a lot to say earlier. No. Okay, public comment going once, twice. All right, let's move on. Public hearing number 7. We have none scheduled. Other business, none. 9, discussions, none. Carl, you're up. Staff reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go over the water and wastewater reports for November and December. So for November, the Water Department maintained compliance with state and federal water quality and reporting requirements. We met distribution, pressures, flows, fire suppression. We continued on our lead service line identification activities. And I have more on that in December. We performed our routine maintenance, and we did work at Elkhead, gate changes, groundskeeping, and continued to work on communication and cell connectivity out to the Elkhead site so that we can have remote control again of that facility. That is a project in cooperation with the Colorado River District. And we've repaired a water main break on a problematic section of Highway 40 near Highway 13. That's the one that Councilman Duran brought up the last time I reported on things. And on average, we made about 1 million gallons of potable water every day. So that's kind of November in a summary. And then also we have the statistics through November. So you can see getting close to the end of the year, we had a lot of utility locates, 123 hydrants flushed, 198 valves worked, a lot of turn-on, turn-offs as well, and same with 38 meter upgrades and 13 frozen. So I'll go ahead and cover December, and then I'll see if I've missed anything. So same is true in December. We met water quality and reporting and fire flow and pressure, and lead service line activities will continue, and so we're planning on the excavation. So just to recap a little bit. So in 2024, the state made available engineering services to assist with the lead service line inventory, with the initial inventory. So we got help from Sunrise Engineering. They were the state's contractor, and they helped with fulfilling all the requirements for that initial inventory. And on the GIS mapping, I gave them access to the water and GIS map. And so we worked with them closely. So the state provided that free of charge. And I received an email probably a couple weeks ago now from the state saying that they were going to offer additional assistance and further identification, including the potholing. So they were looking for people that were interested in using that service. So I replied right away and got us on the list. Don't know how many funds are going to be available for that, but I think I was one of the first people to sign up. I replied right as soon as I got the email. So hopefully they will be able to give us some financial assistance and some technical assistance and engineering assistance on the potholing and further identification. And Councilman Looper, your comment about the backflow tester versus licensed plumber is very key issue. We participated in all the state plumbing board hearings. They passed the law in 2024 that said that backflow testers had to be licensed plumbers or work under a master plumber. And so we had a lot of up in the air. Not many backflow testers are also licensed plumbers. And so we were concerned about that, and the state was concerned about that because we have to have compliance with the cross-connection control program. So we attended those plumbing board hearings, and they made a temporary arrangement for 24 saying that they would not enforce that requirement so that we could still continue to be able to be in compliance with that. So hopefully this bill, I think it was 1187, I think, Bill 1125, 1187, hopefully that will go through in its current form. I was on a meeting and we with a group of people, and we reviewed that, and I think that the proposed changes will work and allow that to still be a smooth operation. And so to further, again, we did our maintenance and continue to work on LCAD, and we had distribution staff pass certification exams in collection and distribution. And on average, we produced about 1.2 million gallons of water per day. And the next page is the year-to-date summary. So 436.5 hours of people's time for doing line locates. So that does take quite a bit out of our year, and very similar, not much change in the other statistics, but you're free to hit me up with any questions you have about those. So I'll move on to wastewater unless anybody has any questions on water activities for November and December. Okay, so for wastewater, we complied with state and federal regulations, performed our maintenance, treated an average of 892,000 gallons a day of wastewater in November, and received and treated 8,200 gallons of hauled waste. We had 20 hours of wastewater times specifically to locates, to 39 locates. We didn't have any collection system issues to report. We assisted other departments, plumbers, contractors, and analyzed Maybell samples. And then in December, again, we met our compliance. We treated 898 gallons of wastewater, 898,000 gallons of wastewater a day, received and treated 7,750 gallons of hauled waste, 9 hours on line locates, and 36 hours to hydraulically clean 0.75 miles of sewer main as part of our routine every 5-week maintenance. We had 1 collection system complaint. We spent 1.5 hours responding to a backup complaint at 995 Colorado. The main was flowing well. We did not believe that we had a problem in the city infrastructure, but we hydraulically cleaned it and did not encounter any obstructions. So we determined that, and we video inspected it, so we determined that it was the property owner's issue. And again, we assisted other departments, contractors, analyzed Maybell's monthly wastewater plant samples.
Questions you want? Hauled waste, is that all, what, out of the city, right? Is it coming from?
It's coming from septic tanks and any other. We also within Moffett County will accept grease trap waste, which we don't really like, but we still accept that. So it's primarily septic tank waste when people get their septic tanks pumped out in the county.
I remember I used to have to pay a premium price for grease trap with stuff. Is that still?
That is still the case, yes.
Because it eats all your bugs, or your bugs eat it or something?
Yeah, and we have to worry about pass-through too,
Right.
with oil and grease.
Questions for Carl? Current water line breaks, where are you at with?
So Steel Street, we had a non-displaced shear break on Steel Street. We repaired that, and our crews were out until after 9 o'clock last night, continuing to work on that. So we put in a temporary valve so that we could come back today and finish up. So we had 8 customers without water last night, but it was restored early today. We found the final leaking spot. It was a rather large burn hole, probably, I don't have a good description for the size, but fairly large burn hole from corrosive soils.
Sure, that was pretty miserable conditions out there in our current temperatures, but I'm sure temperatures contributed to some of it, right?
Yeah, temp freeze-thaw cycles, especially that shear is probably caused by the freeze-thaw cycles and frost getting driven down.
Well, good work to staff, trying to get everybody back as quick as possible. That looked like a pretty big undertaking, so.
It was.
Anything else for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. Item 11, closing remarks and informational items. Anybody? Randy? Good. No. All right. Take a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
Member Looper made a motion to adjourn, second by Councilwoman Camp. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?